So, how did this chapter do with Ironwood's character? Oh, right. It totally ruined him even worse. Well, I mean, it couldn't have been that bad for Cinder in that conversation, right? I mean, that wasn't that bad. Oh, she's crying after what Watts. But what? Well, okay. Well, I mean, hey, it couldn't have gotten that much worse, right? I mean, you take a look at that explosion that was copied by Fairy Law. Oh, good God. Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. RWBY Volume 8, Chapter 10. You know, I think everybody's to the point now to where the expectations are so low that everybody expects something to get worse in each chapter. God, this was a complete nightmare of a chapter. You want to talk about a complete catastrophe? That's exactly what this was. So let's get into this. So it goes where it all last left off, and you have the Aesops in Winter taking the charge with the bomb, where they're going to take it and they're going to blow up Mr. Whale. Oh yeah, well how does that actually go over? Oh, that's right, they don't even do anything. Because apparently there's the ass pull moment from Oscar that actually blows up the whale with all the Grimm. Yeah, all of them. Every single last one. So you just see it just evaporating away, like just dying slowly, and it's just like, are you kidding me? So this is what killed the whale. Now, the scene I did like was Neo kind of skipping around in the apocalypse, you know, I kind of like that, but I'll get to why that's also a problem. Because, guess what? Everybody lives. Everybody that's not a Grimm, or that's not Hazel, or that's not Salem, which Salem's going to come back, so I don't technically count that. So, anybody that was right there at that explosion does not die unless you're a Grimm or Hazel, basically. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's like at this point, whenever you just see it nuke off, right? And the effects of it not killing anyone that's not an enemy, or at least deemed as an enemy unless you're Hazel. Well, it just seems like they took that from Fairy Tail. Like, they made it an even worse Fairy Law. Like, Fairy Law, cool move in Fairy Tail, which everybody knows I love Hiro Mashima and his work. I love Fairy Tail. But this was like just downright a terrible Fairy Law, because you even see the explosion go off and it looks like the Aesops just totally got nuked right there, like just as they're carrying the bomb, right? Just looks like it's completely gone and everybody's alive. You have Team Yabby who has to live. God, man, would I have loved to see them go. But of course they live too, and Neo lives, which that's the thing. I don't see how any of these characters would have lived. Neo was an enemy, by the way, but she lives too, apparently. That, yeah, you know, which I love Neo, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see her die, but I'm just telling you, it makes no sense that any of these characters that were within this blast radius, they all survived. All of them. Every single last one survived this explosion, unless you're Hazel, those Grimm, and Salem, which Salem's going to come back. So, that's absolutely absurd. And then, the explanation of the cane and how it's kinetic energy that was stored in this, that is dumb as hell. Okay, let me explain. You have magic and you have aura in this series, okay? And yet you mean to tell me that kinetic energy is what it was that was stored in this cane to make that blast? That's so stupid. It's so dumb. I get that Ozpin has been getting weaker over time, you know, as time's gone forward with his magic. I get it. But at least it could have been like, yeah, magic was stored into it. Or aura, you know, connected to magic or whatever. But this is stupid. This is a terrible explanation. And it makes no sense whatsoever that it's kinetic energy. What's the point of magic and aura then? What's the actual point? You know, I don't get it at this point. Also, if the damn whale was not parked like a car on the island, then people wouldn't have gotten on it so easily, and then it would have been nuked. Salem, on the other hand, she's also the main villain, and yet you mean to tell me that she was so weak that magic can't compare to that kinetic energy. Also, with how weak she is, it's pathetic for a final villain. Only thing that makes her better than everybody is that she's immortal and she can outlast everybody until they get weak. You know, it's so much different than like a character like Sosuke Aizen from Bleach, for example, like how powerful he was. When you look at that, I mean, he was a real threat within the series, like, of Bleach. You could definitely tell that he was. I mean, he was beating Shinigami left and right. I mean, he was a real boss tier threat. I mean, and they presented that. Goes the same with Madara Uchiha and Naruto. When you look at Madara, when he comes in, well, he's dropping 2 meteors. And he takes on the Kages and beats them all. Like, Madara he was presented as a real boss level threat. I mean, these are real bosses. Salem is nothing but pathetic. I mean, it's just sad. It's so pathetic. And Emerald, at least Emerald felt bad for Hazel's death. At least she was somebody who seemed to have some humanity in her, because of course Team Yabby doesn't. I mean, especially Yang and John. So leave it to Emerald to at least have sympathy for the death of Hazel, which, so this chapter did confirm it, that he's gone, but his redemption was still so poor. I mean, I talked about it in my previous review of this, about how his redemption was just so rushed, and how they should have given him a backstory, and there's just so much more they could have explained, but they just rushed it, and that was a huge problem. But at least with Emerald, it showed that she cared. I mean, I did like that. I thought that was at least a good thing for her character, showing sympathy for the death of Hazel. So I'll give Emerald that. I mean, that's definitely a plus for her character, and which I'm going to talk about her a little bit more in just a moment, because there's a little bit of something I do want to say involving her character. But we got to get to Team RWBY, because how's that going? All right, during the explosion, more tea time. More tea time. Like, what? More? This is so frustrating. I got more tea. As if they didn't already have this enough. During a war. Okay? During a war, they're drinking tea. And what is Weiss doing the moment after the Hound attacks? Is the last time we saw them, the Hound attacked, and there was just them like, oh no, that was a faunus that died, oh no, or at least that was RWBY, that was her response. But yet, now here we go to this whole war going on, and Weiss is presenting tea. Like, this is so bad. Like, this makes me hate Team RWBY so much. Like, oh, you thought it couldn't be more frustrating with tea time, but there's more tea time. Oh god, it's so frustrating. So, after the explosion of the whale, then you have Cinder and Watts' conversation about how Cinder is going to have Watts help her get what she wants. She wants the maiden power. She wants to take Penny's powers away. Basically all that. Like, the one problem that Cinder has had as a character since Volume 5 that they presented was that she became power-hungry as a character, which is one thing that many people, including myself, do not like. And while, yes, I do like Cinder, yes, she is terribly written as a character, and I can acknowledge that. She is a poorly written character. And Watts goes off on Cinder, talking about how, oh, well, you've just screwed up because you've been power-hungry, and this and that, and blah, 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 cry me a river. But, it's like this volume continues to try to do this weird, like, oh, let's slap everybody in the face. I mean, yeah, Watts did have the voice of the audience in that degree, but at the same time, this was a terrible speech. It was a terrible one. And what Watts is doing here is basically like saying the pot's calling the kettle black, because Watts, you're no better as a character, and I don't think he has a right to say anything, because here's why. The man last volume finally does something. He fights Ironwood, only for what? Him to bring 20 bullets to his gun, and that's it. And then he is just completely left without his weapon, unless he's going to pistol whip Ironwood. And then what happens? He just gets completely destroyed in a fight. So there's the big L for Watts there, but that's not the only thing that he did. He got caught in the Schnee Manor with Willow's cameras that she installed in the home. He got caught, and he wasn't smart enough to realize that I should hack these cameras, because it's not like the president of the Schnee Dust Company would be living in that manor or anything. Like, seriously, this guy's an idiot, and then he's thrown in prison because he lost to Ironwood. Like, the guy's a complete and total moron. And who was it that had to bail him out? Oh, that's right, Cinder, because Watts is that incompetent of a character. Like, Watts is a failure himself. So, while he's talking down to Cinder, because Cinder's been pretty terrible herself, at the same time, he is no better, because he failed at everything he did. Like, everything. Basically, like, with most of the villains. Failed at everything. So Cinder obviously threatened to throw him off the edge of the building, which of course she didn't, but she brings him back to the side of the building, and then she goes and cries because of what Watts said. Yeah, she goes and cries. And you know what? As a villain, Cinder has been pretty excruciating. I mean, she really has been, and I think plenty of people can agree to that. But, I like her and the villains more than I do the protagonist. I really do. That's the sad thing. The bar is set to the lowest standard if I'm saying I like Cinder and the other villains more than I am liking the protagonist. That's a pretty bad bar to be set that low, if I'm actually saying that. Also, I do want to present something. Watts was talking about Cinder's failures. At the same time, while we know Cinder has failed, she has also succeeded. If you watch the first 3 volumes, she did succeed. She succeeded in taking down Beacon. I mean, look at it. She came up with her own plan on how to take down Beacon. She acquired Emerald and Mercury to follow her. She also gained the White Fang to be her army, basically, to take down Beacon. So she was able to do all of these things. She also was able to recruit Roman Torchwick to help lead that faction of the White Fang that was there in Vale. So there was also that, which he was good at also recruiting Morphanus to join the White Fang. And she succeeded in taking the maiden powers. The first time she crippled the maiden, the second time she killed her and took the powers. So, Cinder has actually succeeded in some areas. Not only that, but we cannot forget the very guy who can apparently nuke an entire whale. Yeah, she was able to beat and kill him too in his previous body. So, Cinder has done a lot. And like I said, she performed the fall of Beacon. So there has been a lot of achievements under Cinder's belt that Watts can't even compare to. He can't. Cinder did all of that on her own. I mean, she planned it out. I mean, yeah, she had help from Salem, but Cinder was the one who had to go through with that plan. Also, Cinder, before she became this power-hungry character, she was one that was mysterious, but at the same time, she was a morally gray character when in her speech she talks about how she's not sure which side is really right. So even at one time, Cinder was more of a character than she obviously is now, and they've just degraded all the characters, including Cinder, to just basically being these one-dimensional things that are just so bad. And another thing, this whole sympathetic writing, yeah, you could have done that in Volume 4, but these writers didn't do this. Despite the fact that they made her seem like she was afraid and might be regretting what she did back in Volume 3, or at least regretting some decisions, yeah, now they're going back to this approach when they had 4 volumes to do this. This doesn't make any sense. This is pretty awful, in my opinion, in terms of the writing. This goes to show you that they didn't know what they were doing, and they still don't know what they're doing. They never have. I mean, you can see it's a complete and total train wreck. And then Cinder gets a message from Neo talking about how she'll give her the relic for what she owes her. But here's the thing. I just wanted to point this out. Does anybody see the issue with this right here? Anyone? Yeah, how did Neo take this picture? This has bothered me. How did she take this picture if she's got one hand over her mouth, the other one holding the relic? How did this work? And the only thing that I can think that Cinder would also owe Neo would be gratitude and Ruby's head. Oh my dear God, would I like for Cinder to just take the heads of Team RWBY and then present them to Neo after she's killed them. Oh, would that have been fantastic. Because I'm so tired of Team RWBY. Speaking of which, Team Yabby is in the salt mines because, you couldn't get any saltier than being with any of the protagonist characters. So, you have Yang, who is having an issue with Emerald because of what happened all the way back in Volume 3, and then Jean being a soy boy limp dick beta cuck, because that's what his character is. And these characters, Yang is insufferable. I'm just saying it. Yang is absolutely insufferable as always. Can't stand her. And let's talk about Rin first. Rin, with the semblance, apparently isn't just an emotion seer, but he can also apparently read minds, hence knowing that Ozpin is there, that he's returned. God. What can this semblance not do? The next thing you know, you're going to tell me that it's able to see the future. Oh, God. I don't know. I don't really care much for this. I don't think it's really good, but it was the way for them to find out that, Ozpin's back. Also, let's talk about Limp Dick, because, yeah, I love how he has an issue with Emerald, and doesn't say anything about Pyrrha and about the mental torture that Pyrrha went through, but yet he has an issue with Emerald. Yeah, nothing there about how Pyrrha suffered because, I don't know, she killed Penny, who should have stayed dead back in Volume 3. And Pyrrha was his mentor. That was such a big thing for him, and losing her after the mental trauma she went through because of killing Penny, he doesn't say a single thing about Emerald using her semblance at all. Just nothing. And yet, we go back to Volume 5, which is one of the worst volumes in all of RWBY, and Volume 5, he has a complete meltdown saying that he would even let his own friends die as long as it took down Cinder. And then Cinder obviously responds with one of the best comments ever about, like, huh, who are you? I still love that. I mean, as much as I hate Volume 5, I still at least love that because I love the disses on John. But, like, the thing of it is that doesn't say a word about Emerald, doesn't say a word about what she did, and just lets Yang, go on a tangent, but yet Jean doesn't say a word. He is so pathetic. And I gotta at least give Oscar credit. As much as I don't like the character, I at least find him more tolerable than I do any of the other protagonists, because at least Oscar is the one who's trying to calm everyone down, and when everybody else is being stupid, because, everybody's stupid for the sake of the plot, at least he's the character that tries to be like, hey, calm down, everything's fine. He talks about how Emerald could be useful. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, Oscar, he's definitely the main protagonist of the show at this point. Change my mind. He's definitely the main protagonist. And as for Emerald, she's going to join the good guys. Good guys, yeah. More like the villains. But yeah, she's going to join the good guys. But yeah, then Team RWBY. Oh boy, did I absolutely hate this scene. Because, as we remember, Team RWBY had just fought the Hound, and it was revealed that the Hound was a silver-eyed faunus. And you would think that in the same episode that they would present this, that RWBY would be like, oh no, this is what the silver eyes are being used for, and oh no, a faunus was just killed. You would think that this would morally conflict RWBY or have some kind of issue for her, and instead, no. She just acts like everything's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's so frustrating to me, because you'd think that would try to develop her character, but no, it's RWBY, so bad writing is essential. And, of course, what they could have done was Blake and Weiss could have actually been there, and RWBY could have been in the background shocked. Because then that means that she would still be conflicted after what happened. That would have been a good idea, but no development, because they don't want to develop these characters. They want to keep it one-dimensional and terrible. And then Ironwood. Alright. Okay, let's get to the big part of this. Ironwood. So, a character that people definitely enjoyed last volume. Very logical, and was doing things for the right cause, which was Ironwood. But of course, leave it to the writers to walk into the room and to just shit all over that, because people liked Ironwood. And let's talk about this. So the Aesops and Winter come in to give a report that Crow, Robin, and Watts are all gone. And it's funny that Ironwood only specifically cares about Crow, not Robin, despite the fact of her being a terrorist. And then Watts, because who would have guessed he was going to betray him? Of course he's going to. So Ironwood comes up with an idea because he sees the Sheena's company cargo ships going towards Mantle, and he decides to start to blow them up because, hey, look, things aren't going my way, and to get Penny to do what I tell her to do, well, we got to endanger Mantle because we're going to take the bomb and blow it up, because it's not as if that bomb was going to be bad or anything, right? Oh, and Nora, I just want to bring this up. Nora is back in her regular clothes when she was in her bandages the last time we saw her. So, like, what? What? That didn't make much sense to me. But, alright, sure, because she's apparently conscious again, even though she was still going in and out of consciousness. But alright. So Ironwood has now decided to become the villain, because they had to dehumanize him because of his semblance, which many people probably are not aware of, because, of course, leave it to the writers to never bring this up in the writing, but off-screen, in a live stream. But we'll get to that in a moment. Let's take a look at who Ironwood was last volume. He was somebody who was doing things for the right cause, that would be best for the world and for the people. And you could definitely see this. As someone who was really actively even going against Team RWBY, he still believed in doing the right thing in the end, when RWBY was, coming around and just making things worse, because that's what they do. And so, Ironwood was a fantastic character who, no joke, carried last volume. It was the Ironwood show. It really was. But then, you go from that, to this, to where Ironwood's like, things don't go my way. Well, I'm gonna just destroy Mantle. Like, what? Are you serious? It's so dumb that they're going to dehumanize this character because they want you to hate him. This is the route that they're taking yet again. This is not the first time they've done this. They dehumanized Adam, if everybody remembers, this is exactly what they did to his character as well. And it's funny that nobody, which everybody's aware of his semblance, at least to our knowledge, but they don't acknowledge the fact that, oh, his semblance might be going out of control, because his semblance is known as metal. And what it does is it basically makes him go into tunnel vision to achieve what he is setting out to do. And so this semblance itself, which people should be aware of and should be like, hey, we need to make sure he's okay. No, they have to just look at Ironwood like he's the bad guy rather than try to help him. And this is the problem here, is that they take a character who was so willing to be there for the people and try to help them the best he possibly could, to wanting to just go, hey, I have an idea. Let's just destroy it all so I can get what I want. I mean, this is what they're doing. They're dehumanizing the character because they're trying, as always, to tell you which characters you should and should not like. And in this instance, they're dehumanizing Ironwood because Iron Man bad. Like, I'm not kidding. This is what they're doing, and it's absolutely frustrating. I mean, leave it to Team RWBY to drive the man to insanity because they don't understand war, and every single last one of Team RWBY are a bunch of idiots. So, of course, they drove him up a wall and all the way to this point. And now, of course, he also cares about Crow escaping, but the others, he doesn't care about them. I mean, he shouldn't care about anyone in the first place escaping. I don't see the whole point of why he even cared about Crow escaping, when Crow should be the least of his worries, which is dumb. Funny he doesn't care about Robin escaping, but he cares about Crow. Pretty dumb. And also, this is the thing. This goes against his character entirely. Like, this just takes away from who he was. See, they try to make certain characters more hateable, because what the writers do is that not only do they dehumanize them, but this is exactly how they do it. They strip away the characteristics of who they were, and they just do it until they are just one blank slate of one thing. Like, you'll see Team RWBY as how they are nothing but one-dimensional evil sociopaths. That's what they are. And then here you are, right here, with Ironwood. And it's so sad that they are just completely taking the character, not only character assassinating him, but they are going so far as to character castrate him. This is what they're doing, and there's no other characters there to try to help him because they have to look at him like he's the bad guy. And it's just awful. This is one of the worst things, and you would think the characters around him would care because his semblance is actually triggering him to be this way. You know, the thing is that you don't have to make a villain awful. You don't have to make a villain be as if they are dehumanized to the point that you have to hate them. You know, villains can be seen in their own story as the heroes. This is something that they should have done, and they didn't. You know, and I'm not just talking in terms of Ironwood. This is just in general for RWBY villains. Like, they make them all just so evil and they dehumanize them rather than trying to make them the hero of their own story. You know, it doesn't have to be this black and white story. You know, there are morally gray characters that exist, but this is simply atrocious. And this just goes to show how bad the writing is in this series. It's just awful. So, my overall thoughts on this chapter is it is absolute dog shit. Like, this is one of the worst chapters that has been made. I mean, it's so bad. First off, starting with the explosion, how it apparently doesn't kill anybody unless it's Hazel or Salem or the Grim. But yet, everybody that's caught within the blast, despite the fact that some of them fell back because of the shockwave, no, they're fine. Doesn't even obliterate them. I mean, that was just awful. And then kinetic energy that Ozpin has stored over time, over the thousands of years, and then just uses almost all of it. Oh, like, what's the point of magic and aura? I'm serious. What is the point of magic and aura then? I don't understand why it's even here anymore at this point. Like, it's so terrible. It's so bad. Salem just gets downplayed as a villain to being just this horrible character. And it's just pathetic. Hazel's dead because of this explosion, because why not? Gotta be stupid for the plot, right? And it's so bad. And, I mean, like, oh, it's awful. It's so awful. And Yang and John are just as insufferable as ever. Can't stand them. So horrible as characters. Just so terrible. And Team RWBY just in general having more tea time. Gotta have more tea. God. And then RWBY not even learning anything from the Hound. It's like, It's so insufferable. It really is. It is agony. It's so bad. And Ironwood, just what they've done to Ironwood here, it's so horrible. Like, his semblance is one of the worst semblances to exist. It really is. And they just can't ever make a villain, you know, at all be a villain for the sake of, hey, I'm the good guy in the story. No, they gotta dehumanize every single last villain because, oh, they're the bad guys. We gotta make you hate them. They can't construct sympathetic villains. No, they gotta make every single last villain just the worst. It's so frustrating. It really is. It's so awful to see this. I mean, it is just frustrating. At least Oscar is the voice of reason until the plot decides to make him stupid for the sake of the plot, but I'll at least give Oscar some credit. He deserves it. And the animation with Neo and Nora, like, how did Neo take that picture? And Nora, like, how did she get into her clothing when she was, like, still fading in and out of consciousness? It doesn't make any sense. And then the Cinder and Watts conversation. Like, Watts is one of the least likely people to be talking to Cinder about the whole issue whenever he's just failed the whole entire time whenever he even did anything. I mean, seriously, Watts to me has been nothing but a failure as a character. It was like Volume 7, he did nothing that succeeded. Nothing at all succeeded for him. So, to me, him going on about Cinder's failures, I'm just thinking, yeah, well, you might want to take a look at yourself in the mirror there, bud. Like, the speeches are so awful. And they just need to stop. I swear if there's another one, I'm going to be furious. And then Cinder now being a sympathetic villain when they've had 4 whole volumes to do this. Yeah, it took them this long. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is one of the worst chapters in RWBY's history, in my opinion. But anyways, let me know what you think about this chapter down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and make sure you are still subscribed because YouTube is unsubscribing people from all the favorite channels. So make sure you are still subscribed to all your favorite channels. Hit the video with a like, and also be sure to share the video on social media. Spread the word and get it out there. It's greatly appreciated, and it really helps out the channel a lot. Also, be sure to follow me on Discord. We have a wonderful community there. Not only that, but it will keep you up to date on when the newest videos will be released, as well as any other upcoming events in the near future. So be sure to follow me on Discord. The link is in the description down below. But anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you. And have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.